Hi, welcome back to my studio. Um, thank you. Welcome back. It looks like we're live. Hi there. So, uh, I want to show you what I did the other day. So, I'm preparing for May and while at the same time trying to bring April to a conclusion. And what I'm doing is I want to learn a couple of things from different artists in May. This board is for a Frida Kahlo inspired artwork. Now, yesterday I tried to stain this with just a dilution of olive green straight from the tube. And I have noticed that 24 hours later, it is perfectly dry. So, in fact, it dried very, very quickly indeed. So, in May, this will be the second of the pieces that I want to attempt. The first of the pieces, however, is going to be an Henri Rousseau inspired piece. So, I've already, you know, demoed the thirds rule. So, there's thirds this way as well, to give a kind of as a compositional device. This gives us four points of interest. And in preparing this board, I did a red orange up top and just black made of French ultramarine and raw umber to give the coolest black that I could. And this was done at the same time as the other board. As you can see by the sheen on it, it's still wet. It's still got a bit of drying to do. Yeah. So, um, what does that tell us? Well, I think what we need to do is take note of the drying times of the different paints that we use. Both were used with the same media. So that's me getting ready for May, while at the same time trying to end April. And April's work has been a series of what I call elassomorphs, culminating in this one here. And so there is a little bit of work still to do on this one before I can say that April is finished. This painting in this way has now run its course for the time being. I haven't exhausted it. I'm not bored with it. I'm just ready to move on. What I've discovered with the other elassomorphs is that these eyelashes here have become grasses and plants. So that has become an idea that has established itself. So when I do the next elassomorph, the eyelashes are just automatically, paint an eyeball and give it plant eyelashes because that rubric, that schemata has become established in the format that has become my kind of elassomorph. And there's one or two little bits of detailing that I want to finish off, like for here. Here, for instance, the chessboard pattern could go a little bit more into here and create a separation between these bromeliads or gingers or whatever, and the space between the palette and the guitar. There's kind of no man's land. It's not really going on. Um, there is a black eyelash there. If I continue the pattern, that will become obscured. And so that helped influence the decision to make these eyelashes green because that would automatically create a separation between it and the chessboard. And the rest of the time is spent working on the quetzal. And so the quetzal painting here has got a bit of work to do, yet, but as you can see, I've filled in the chessboard and other details on it, so I'm quite satisfied. The branch here um, is coming along quite nicely, and I've created a juxtaposition between the logical man-made mathematical form of the chessboard and the organic grasses which will be growing up out of here. So the next thing that has to catch my attention is the mandala above the quetzal, and we'll have a look at it now. Any moment, we'll just zoom in on the quetzal. Okay. There we are. Here, I want to create a design inside the circle. And I want to map it out with a drawing first. So to solve this problem, I merely transferred the circle, which I used as cup to create the original circle, made a copy of it onto paper, like so, and I've folded this in half. And that way I can find the center lines of the angles that I'm interested in. And I think that this might be one. I think that cross might be interesting. So that diagonal is enough. And so the opposite diagonal here. And what I'm trying to do is create these little pie charts. Next one I think would be round about, well, let's do the halfway mark in north. So round about here, the good position here. Here. Okay, and then splitting that difference round about there. I'm not worried about it being exact. Okay, so now I've got my sort of pie chart. I need to find smaller circles. So what I'm going to do is reduce the amount of circle by fiddling about with paper. By cutting small amounts off. Oh. Now it's not an exact science, but here we go. Try and make this inner circle. For another side. I have some wet paint on the go. Do something akin to this. Same again on the other side. Center line. Ending roughly. So I have a complex thing that I want to attempt. I have no idea if I'm going to be successful with this or not, but I'm trying to create concentric circles. I've ended up with an oval. Fix that. Just a little bit of trial and error. A little bit pointy. I'm going to try center. Even that could afford to be smaller, but we'll just try this. Not all of it's going to be seen anyway because the quetzal is obscuring quite a lot of it. The wings are helping to disrupt the mathematical regularity of it. So I've got my kind of spider's web there, like a pie chart with concentric circles. And what I want to do is color each of these segments differently, and then color the whole lot with yellow in the hope that when I scrape away a repeated pattern, it will emerge as different colors. Like, for instance, uh, orange, red, purple, that kind of thing. So once it's scraped away, you can see the colors emerging, and it should be a fairly complex pattern. But I've never done it before, and I have no idea about how successful it's going to be. So we're just going to have to try it and see. In principle, it should work because I've laid down a colour before, I've covered it with another colour and scraped back. So it should work with this, but only time will tell. Okay, we're now going to begin to paint the halo which surrounds guitar and quetzal on top. I was concerned about having green against green. I don't want to overdo it, and so I've chosen this pure viridian for contrast's sake, mixed in water with a little addition linseed oil. And the idea here is the hard to know what the word is for it. It's from a cartwheel design that was observed in Costa Rica. So their carts are designed a bit like mandalas. So they're multicolored and ornately painted and designed. So what I'm going to do is try to recreate the very precise detailing, but in a relatively easy way for me to reduce my workload. I've got three colours set aside to alternate, and they are Viridian, such as this, I'm applying right now. Now, I put down a layer of titanium white before. You might have seen in an earlier installment, and the pigment that I'm laying on top doesn't want to, it's not reacting brilliantly with it. Kind of reluctance there. But I'm going to persevere. So, um, so this design is, each segment we're going to be outside, inside, middle. I've done the outside, inside, and the center, for want of a better expression. And I chose to lead off with green because I don't want the greens sort of competing with each other. I'm also now beginning to consider the possibility that titanium white, which was used to obscure the flag below, the Costa Rican flag below, is not 100% dry. Yet, I'm not seeing mixing, reacting in a very odd way. Yeah, so one of the decisions was by placing the green here, I'm not using larger amounts of green next to this large green object. And so I wanted to reduce the effect of it all. There's a lot of green going on. So now 1, 2, 3, next one, 1. Trying to fill in eye chart or the mandala or the halo. Like I say, with these paintings, it's hard to actually say what it is because there isn't a word for this totem pole guitar display thing. So I think mandala is the closest we're going to get to it. I'm going to call it the mandala. And the effect that I'm going to hopefully achieve is a bit like the paintings of, I think it's Robert and Sonia Delaunay. They did these circular designs inspired by the excitement around light at the turn of the 1900s, 1920s, 1930s. So they did a lot of these designs. So if you're curious, do look it up. A little spot of research. That might work. Outside, inside, middle. Outside, inside. is partially obscured. But what I'll do is I'll just outside and put a little and middle will just be cradling the crown of that um, quetzal just there. And actually, that might do well to throw the rest that bird into relief. So that is working for just now. So if we go here, that's middle, outside, inside, middle, outside this section here, outside section. Fairly large section as well. I haven't really resolved upon the wings of the quetzal, so there may be a bit of redrawing. Future. But it's performing the role, if you like, of the Vitruvian man. I have a kind of Vitruvian quetzal. So the Vitruvian man is Leonardo's very famous image of a man within a circle showing portions. Yeah, a Vitruvian quetzal. So outside, inside, middle, and that works. Outside, inside, framing lower belly, feet, interior. That outside, inside, middle. Keep the pattern going. Outside, inside, middle here. In a way, it's very similar skill needed for the tiling on the chessboard. Only we're just using a kind of curved surface. And if it doesn't work, then I'm just going to leave the mandala very bright yellow. Okay, so part of the disc continues here. That'll help neaten up the drawing, which has been lost somewhat, but reinstated. It may be that I might have to go back and repaint these and give it an additional layer. I'm about to switch over to one of the other colours. Probably the really bright magenta. Has biggest contrast to the green. Okay. And so it'll be the same idea. So off camera, I've got a jar of thinner. I've got the water with the linseed for the paint mix. So I'm just using the same brush, which has been cleaned, and now focusing on magenta. So following the same kind of pattern of outside, inside. But I feel it's exactly what's needed for the yellow, because like the palette, I'm going to put a layer of colour on top. I'm going to scrape through, like I did with the palette, scrape through the dark brown to reveal the much lighter yellow ochre underneath. So this is what I'm beginning to like about oil paint, is that you have an area of wet paint immediately adjacent to another area of wet paint, and there's no bleeding like you would get in watercolour, so they don't run into each other. The real treat. This magenta has got good coverage, and it's not having the same kind of problems that the Viridian was having with them joining onto the surface there. So it may be that the pigment, the Viridian, because it's old paint, it may be a little bit reluctant. Perform. Outside, inside. Again, like the chessboard, trying to find the perimeter, contours of the tile or the area, and then once it's found, um, filling in the center, flooding in the center to meet the outsides and middle. So part of the middle has been obscured by the wing of the bird. There's enough. And beginning to feel that this month I have learned quite a lot about painting in water mixable oils. Change the angle now, hopefully you can see it a little bit better. And specifically my aim was brush control, so I'm not quite so nervous when I approach these shapes. Still need caution, and I still need lots of practice. Again, finding the perimeter. Trying to move the hand rather than fingers. But knowing that if there are any mistakes, can be covered up. I've overloaded the brush there, so I'm just going to mop off the excess into the area that's about to be filled. So once the perimeter is found, you can relax a little bit about filling in the picture. The belly of this brush is holding onto the paint a little. I'm just flattening it out. The rest of the paint onto the. That's outside. So the next one should be inside. I'm maintaining a pattern, a regular pattern. Outside. So the inside portion is just a tiny little, tiny, might not register the camera. There we are, it's there. Next part, the middle. And the middle is partially obscured. Wing, beak. Such a very, very small area. Yeah, there's miniaturists who would think that's a very large playing field. Colour. Right, I'll leave a little light spot in case I want to redraw the beak. Almost finished with the magenta. So outside, inside, middle, which means I'm back on the outside again. This part here. A little bump. Thankfully able to correct it. I suppose the secret of this kind of lettering skill is getting having the right tools, that helps. But mixing the paint to the right consistency. And at the moment, I mixed it to a kind of thick ink or a kind of thin cream. Actually hitting that line properly, I'm missing that line. Bend a little bit. And actually, when it's covered over in yellow anyway, I won't be hitting the outside of each of these tiles. It's the center of each of these tiles is where the detailing is going to happen. So I can correct the outline when I do the yellow. But I'm a little bit anxious about this working because in my mind's eye, the way that I see it working, the result could be really quite effective. I'm not sure if it's going to work. Because when I scrape back, what happens if I scrape through all layers and not just down to the second layer? is the one that I'm putting on right now. Outside, inside. Last of all, middle. And it's also going to do that really nice part of making a fan right across the bird. So it frames it just nice. Not entirely planned, just a whim at the time I did it. I knew I was wanting to put in a kind of mandala, but didn't actually think about the spacing of the tiles, just really the problem of actually drawing details in place. I can see now that the first colour, the first box that I put on, this one here, is beginning to dry in the magenta. I can also see that Viridian is drying with some marbling and some evidence of the brush strokes within. So it's not going on perfectly smoothly. That's okay. Now this purple is Diox purple, being lazy, saying its name. Really, it's going to be easy to remember where it goes because it's just filling in the gaps. It's having a similar kind of watercolor on wax resistance. And there's a kind of wax resist or oil resist going on here. Can't quite fathom. So it's happened with the Viridian and the Diox purple. I hope it's not going to be an adherence problem for me later on. This is a very nice purple. And it does give the illusion of black. So I actually used it to create some of my darks on the bird. For the red portion, the underbelly. A large tile, thank goodness. Still tricky following the outline. So yeah, I'm trying to remember more information about Robert and Sonia Deloney. Um, they were part of a movement celebrating speed and excitement and enthusiasm, but I can't remember for the life of me the name of that movement. But it'll come back to me when the camera isn't rolling anymore. But a lot of artists at the time were enthusiastic about the promise of improvement that machinery make on their lives. And so Robert and Sonia Deloney were excited by the propeller blades of aircraft, and they made these kind of whirring disc designs. It's not unlike. There's a family resemblance between what I'm doing with this mandala and what they did with their artwork, some of their artwork. Because artists can choose, different ways to express the various different ideas that they want to express. So hopefully you can see that. I'm so busy concentrating on filling my lines accurately, I'm forgetting about whether or not you can see it being filled. And actually, it's just very mundane, very quotidian. Um, it's the craft part of art where you just show up, do a day's work. So you can learn to turn your art into a craft by doing it. Trained to be a painter. Thinking about Velasquez, the school of such and such, the school of Titian. You would take on an apprentice and show them this is how we do it, and they would learn it, and they'd learn it like a craft. They would be a skilled craftsman doing a job, not an artist being inspired. Up, do the work. There is an element of that. Well, art, you've got to put in. You've got to put in the hours. You've got to put in the hard work. Get the rewards. See some improvement. And that can be mundane, and as I say, my favourite word, one of my favourite words, quotidian, the tedious and the mundane part of doing it. And yet, from health point of view, it's the regularity of painting, colouring in, or the repeated action, occupying the mind, leaving no space for troubling thoughts to enter in. So that's why it's good for mental health. But if you're occupied in something like this, your mind isn't engaged often on the things that are troubling you. And we all have worries. I'm going to rotate this around so I can get a better view of it. I actually think that's a grease spot on the board. The board is very old, and a lot of these boards were just given to me by people who were throwing out stuff, so I'm not actually sure what their life was before I got them. But certainly, I am now thinking about buying more. And the ones that are of interest to me are the linen coloured ones, because largely my work is painting hummingbirds and things like that. And so linen would be a good base colour. Okay, so that's it done for today. Once it's completely dry, I'm going to go over with a very, very light yellow. And when it's beginning to oxidize, when it's beginning to dry out, I'm going to scrape in regular kind of designs and patterns and things. And while most of it will appear yellow, as yellow as this wheat field, the designs that I draw should come out in these various colours. I deliberately chose strong colours that would contrast heavily with the yellow. Thanks for watching. Hope you found something of interest, something that's of use to you, or that can inspire you in your own creativity, wherever you may be. Thanks now. Bye. And here we are today. You'll appreciate that was a recording. And so even 24 hours later, we can see that the paint in this area hasn't completely dried. So if we try the magenta, yep, still a little bit tacky. The Viridian is the one that's most cured of all the paints, and I would say that the Diox is, there you can see, is the one that's taken longest to dry. So in terms of the colours, this is drying faster than this, which is the, so Viridian is drying the fastest, magenta next, and the dioxazine purple, or diox purple, is taking the longest. So even after 24 hours, it's still a little bit juicy, and we're not ready to paint over the top of it quite yet. But that has given me time to reflect and to make a strategy, and I'll share that with you. Having never done this before, it's a bit of a learning curve for me. I have my disc with my concentric circles inside, and I felt that if I painted over all of it, I would lose the contours here, here, and also I would lose the segments. And so what I've resolved upon is to merely paint over a segment and then sgraffito into it the design that I want, and then reinforce any separations there might be in the tile before the next tile. So paint over the next one, sgraffiti in the pattern that I want, restate any separations there might be, and continue the pattern all the way around. And the next idea that I had was, well, we have this disc, we have the bird on the guitar, like so, like this kind of idea. And what I thought would be quite nice is, although it's going to be yellow, I thought it would be nice to have a central ring here of a very different yellow. And so we have a smaller halo within a larger halo. And so all that is going to have to wait until the mandala part of it dries. So until then, I would like to thank you for visiting the live stream again. I did a little bit of an experiment, which I'm about to check has been successful. Um, I pre-recorded some sections of the demo so that I knew the outcome before I went onto the live stream. I'm planning on going fully live with my live streams, and by doing that, that would free me up and give me time to actually answer online questions or monitor the kind of chat room. So a little bit of experiment. Hope that you learned something today that is useful and that it inspires creativity wherever you may be. Thanks for watching. Bye now.